already hot out here. Not as hot as the market is right now. My company's been booming, so I need to make sure that I have enough items to keep up with all these new clients.
The sun has just come.
What's up, squirrels?
There go that sun.
Oof.
How you doing, sunshine?
Think you know Brandi Passante after watching Storage Wars for over a decade? Think again. How does a woman keep a smile on national television while crumbling inside from family tragedy, illness, and betrayal? From a symbol of strength, she hit rock bottom in a spiral of panic, only to completely redefine herself from the ground up. This is the true profile of a woman who dared to walk away from the safety of the spotlight to find herself. But that journey didn't begin under the flash of paparazzi cameras. It started in a small town, where fame was still an alien concept. Before America knew her name, Brandi Passante was born in Harris County, Texas. When she was a kid, her family moved to Orange, California. A coastal town, a normal house, and a childhood that wouldn't warrant a second glance from network television. In the late 1990s, she met Jared Schultz, a young romance. They were young, broke, but had what you might call a modest ambition. They stuck together. They had two sons, Cameron and Peyton. Brandi spent most of her kids' early years as a stay-at-home mom, handling the meals, the bedtimes, and all the invisible labor that cameras would never capture. Then, the couple decided to open a second-hand thrift store. They named it Now and Then. A simple name for a simple dream. Buy low, sell high, and make rent each month. To stock the shelves, Jared started attending abandoned storage unit auctions across Southern California. It was a bizarre way to make a living. You pay for a locker you can only look at from the doorway, no opening boxes, no rummaging around. You place a bet. You pray for luck. In 2010, A&E called. They were developing a show about people who bid on abandoned storage lockers. Brandi and Jared agreed, even though they doubted the show would go anywhere. Brandi would later recount this bluntly. They shot 6 episodes, then waited. A long time. Nobody on the production crew was convinced audiences would actually tune in to watch strangers dig through old junk in a storage unit. The pilot aired, and overnight, everything changed. Storage Wars became a cultural phenomenon. Fans dubbed Brandi and Jared the Young Guns, a young, straight-talking couple who bickered just like any other normal husband and wife. The audience saw themselves in them, but anything that comes too fast usually carries a price tag no one can predict. When fame became a prison, within months of the premiere, Brandi could no longer make a simple grocery run like a normal person. Strangers would walk up and say hi. Strangers would snap photos. Strangers would shout her name from across the parking lot. Most of them were just fans, but not all of them. Brandi started receiving mail. Some of it kept her awake at night. There were death threats. There were things she would later simply describe as creepy. She and Jared were forced to move. This time, to a gated community. But the gated community didn't fix the problem. The real issue was internal. Brandi later admitted on the Dad Diary podcast that the confident image many people saw on screen did not fully reflect who she was in real life. Behind the public persona, she was actually deeply shy and often struggled with anxiety in everyday situations, even during simple trips to places like the store or the gas station, where the thought of being approached by strangers could leave her feeling terrified. That confession came from a woman whom all of America perceived as an absolute powerhouse on screen. She started going to therapy. There were periods when she couldn't even leave the house. But Storage Wars didn't allow her to hide. Unlike reality shows filmed on a closed soundstage, Storage Wars required its stars to be out in the real world at every auction. She couldn't retreat behind studio doors. Week after week, she had to step into real crowds, in real public spaces, wearing a face that everyone recognized. Meanwhile, the shooting schedule marched on. The contracts remained ironclad. And Brandi learned how to smile for the cameras while, deep down, something else was slowly breaking. That was the first toll of fame. The second one came in 2012. and it was infinitely heavier. When the law couldn't protect her. In 2012, a new name entered Brandi's life: Hunter Moore. Moore ran a revenge porn website dedicated to posting explicit photos and videos of women without their consent. When Facebook banned the site, he pivoted to Tumblr and Twitter. In 2012, he posted a video and claimed the woman in it was Storage Wars star Brandi Passante. The news spread like wildfire. Friends tipped her off. Fans warned her. She watched it and vehemently denied it was her. But denial wasn't enough. Once a clip is out on the internet, it never truly disappears. Brandi developed insomnia. Her anxiety skyrocketed. She made herself sick. She later confided that she couldn't stop agonizing over the thought of her children going online one day and stumbling upon something that bore their mother's name, but wasn't their mother. She sued Hunter Moore. The lawsuit demanded $2.5 million in damages for emotional distress, defamation, and damage to her career. Moore didn't respond. He didn't even mount a defense. On paper, it was an open and shut case. Federal Judge James Selna delivered his ruling in 2013. Brandi won the case, but the outcome was far smaller than many expected. She did not receive $2.5 million, or even hundreds of thousands. In the end, the court awarded her only $750 because the judge said she had not shown enough solid evidence of financial or career damage. $750 for a deepfake video, for months of sleepless nights, for the terror that her sons might one day see it. Brandi didn't talk much about the incident after that, but there are some things a woman never forgets, even after she stops talking about them. And if you think that was the darkest chapter, just wait for what came next. The secret she kept hidden for a decade. For years, Storage Wars fans often wondered about one small detail. Why did Brandi sometimes look so distant and melancholic when the cameras weren't focused directly on her? Why did her usual sharp wit suddenly fall flat in certain episodes? No one had the answer. She didn't speak on it, and A&E certainly wasn't filming it. The answer only came to light on April 22nd, 2025. On that day, her longtime colleague, Daryl Sheets, an original Storage Wars cast member since Season 1, passed away in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Police arrived at the scene around 2 a.m. They ruled the cause of death as a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was 67. Brandi posted a tribute to Daryl on Instagram that same day. The post featured a photo of the two of them on set. The beginning was exactly what everyone expected: condolences, shared memories, a heartfelt mourning. But halfway through the caption, she revealed something that left the entire fandom stunned. She admitted that her own family had already been touched by a similar tragedy, after losing both a parent and a sibling under circumstances painfully close to what she was describing. One line, just a handful of words, but enough for the audience to realize that the woman they had watched on television for 15 years had been living with two of life's most devastating losses and had never told a soul. She included the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 988. She didn't weaponize her private pain for clout. Instead, she turned it into a message that might just save a stranger reading her post. That image spoke volumes. A woman raising two kids, stepping in front of the lens every week, all while carrying the weight of the deaths of her closest family members. And through it all, she kept smiling on screen, kept bantering with Jared, kept doing the press junkets. She didn't stay quiet because she had nothing to say. She stayed quiet because there are some traumas where, if you speak on them, people don't ask if you're okay, they ask so they can write another headline. But Brandi's heartache didn't end there. Her 16-year marriage was about to enter its final days. The woman who forgot who she was. Brandi and Jared had actually split up in 2018, but they kept it a secret for 3 long years. For 3 years, they continued to appear on television together, bidding together, letting the audience believe the young guns were still alive and well. There was no press release, No Notes app breakup post on Instagram. On camera, they were still the same couple fans had fallen in love with back in 2010. The facade only cracked in 2021 when season 13 of Storage Wars aired. Fans started to notice something was off. Brandi and Jared were bidding separately. When their paths crossed at auctions, the banter was awkwardly tense. Jared joked, half joking, half taunting that if Brandi placed a bid, he'd bid right behind her. She didn't laugh. In a 2021 interview, Brandi made a statement that resonated deeply, shared over and over by women across America. "I didn't really have an identity for many, many years." That statement wasn't just about Jared as a specific person. It was about a paradigm that millions of middle-aged American women have lived through. A marriage that reduces them to someone's wife, someone's mother, the woman standing behind the man. Until one day, they look in the mirror and no longer recognize the person staring back. Brandi said she was trying to find herself again. She wasn't rushing into another romance. She was just going with the flow, taking it week by week. There's a small detail many fans overlook. Before Storage Wars continued, Brandi and Jared had their own spin-off called Brandi and Jared, Married to the Job. It had an 8-season run. 8 seasons of playing the happy family on television. 8 seasons of selling a narrative that, behind studio doors, hadn't been true for a very long time. That is the hardest part of fame. Having to play the role of yourself, long after you've completely changed. But the breakup wasn't the darkest chapter. A push at a bar in 2021 was the final blow that left the country in shock. The push that ended it all May 2021, a bar in Orange County, California. Brandi was sitting with a group of friends. A totally normal evening. Music, drinks, a few laughs. Then, Jared showed up. According to law enforcement sources cited by TMZ, a heated exchange broke out between the two. Bar staff asked Jared to leave. Before walking out, he shoved Brandi. Twice, right in front of her friends. That detail, in front of her friends, is the one you can't unsee. Physical violence is bad enough on its own. Physical violence in a public crowd, while people you know are watching, is a wholly different kind of degradation. She wasn't just assaulted. She was humiliated. Jared was charged with misdemeanor domestic violence. He later completely denied ever laying hands on Brandi. A&E launched an internal investigation. They never issued an official statement, but when season 14 rolled around, Jared didn't return to Storage Wars. After more than a decade as a franchise staple, he simply vanished from the show. Brandi largely maintained her silence regarding the incident. She didn't do a tell-all interview, she didn't hit the talk show circuit, but in March 2021, just weeks before the news broke to the media, she posted a promotional poster for the new season of Storage Wars. Jared was in the poster. She placed a little demon emoji right over his face, a split-second action, short enough to afford plausible deniability, clear enough that nothing else needed to be said. That was perhaps the lowest point of her life. But from that rock bottom, an entirely new Brandi emerged. The woman America had never seen. While she was bracing herself through the violence, the divorce, and the quiet grief of hidden losses, Brandi's own body began to turn against her. She was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, an autoimmune disorder affecting the thyroid. Hashimoto's is a name that middle-aged American women know all too well. It strikes women at a vastly higher rate than men. Millions of women across the country live with it every single day. Unexplained exhaustion, brain fog, dry skin, weight fluctuations, mood swings, feeling freezing cold when everyone else feels fine. Sometimes, a raspy voice. When Brandi described her symptoms, countless female viewers recognized themselves in her struggle. On top of everything, she had also contracted COVID-19 and dealt with lingering long-haul complications. Add it all up, and it was enough to break a person. But Brandi didn't break. She started working out. She overhauled her diet. She revamped her wardrobe. In December 2024, she posted a photo on Instagram. A black top, jeans, and a pair of rhinestone cowboy boots. The caption was short and self-deprecating. Once upon a dreamy pair of sparkly boots. Fans were floored. People in the comments were asking if she had just turned 30. She was 45. She launched her own podcast, The Real Reality, with Brandi Passante. This time, she was in the driver's seat. No longer someone's wife. No longer standing in someone's shadow. She asked the questions. She picked the guests. She dictated the narrative. For the first time in nearly 20 years, the name Brandi Passante stood alone on the marquee. And the underlying message to her middle-aged female audience was loud and clear. Life doesn't end at 40. Sometimes, it's just getting started. A second shot at happiness. After the divorce, Brandi was in no rush to fall in love again. In interviews during those first few years, she maintained that she was just riding the wave. But in 2024, a new man started making appearances on her Instagram. Friends called him Beaver. He wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't a reality TV co-star. He was just a normal guy, far removed from the glare of the spotlight. As of 2026, the two are still going strong. Brandi occasionally shares brief snippets of their life: a quiet dinner, a getaway, a birthday celebration. No grand spectacles, no Hollywood-style public debuts. Just two adults with their own complex histories, meeting at a stage in life where they both know exactly what they want. Her comment sections are flooded with well wishes. One user wrote, "Good for you, girl. Happiness looks good on you. Enjoy being loved." That comment racked up thousands of likes, because it wasn't just for Brandi. She continues to film Storage Wars. From season 13 onward, she bids alone. In one interview, she put it bluntly, "I'm actually really excited to be doing this on my own now." On my own. Those words used to terrify her. Now, they are the source of her power. Her two sons, Cameron and Peyton, are grown men now. They watched their mother weather every storm. They were the reason she refused to give up during the darkest years, and they are the reason she stands so tall today. Brandi Passante isn't just a lucky reality TV star. She is a survivor. She survived stalking and threatening letters that forced her out of her home. She survived a deepfake revenge porn nightmare where the justice system valued her dignity at exactly $750. She survived the deaths of two close family members, carrying the grief in absolute silence for years. She survived a marriage that dragged on until it completely erased her identity. She survived public physical abuse in a bar in front of her friends. She survived an autoimmune disease that millions of women silently battle. And she is still here, standing solo at the auction lockers, hosting her own podcast, dropping photos at 45 that make fans think she's 30. If you are currently navigating the darkest chapter of your own life, remember Brandi. You might not have a reality television show, but your story is just as worthy of being told. And your time in the light is waiting for you on the other side. Drop a comment sharing what you admire most about Brandi's resilience. And if this story resonated with you, share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear it.